What's up, guys? This is Real Swin Cheesy. We're now only 7 days out, so keeping the hype going and keeping it real. This is super exciting, right? And actually, so there was an article posted yesterday, which was dope, but actually, originally I wanted to talk about an article posted after the story mode one. They did like a little interview, answered some questions, and, noted some interesting things. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a longer one because it's a long article, but again, holds a lot of really interesting information that hopefully we can get answered and pointed towards in, this new story mode or in the future of Guilty Gear Strive stories. So yeah, let's just go into it. And the first thing is that we do get confirmation that Soul still has the gear cells in him, right? Like his fighting ability's been, as they even put it, like extremely lowered compared to the past, right? But it hasn't disappeared, so he can still go Dragon Assault and everything, but yeah, he just doesn't have the flame and corruption in it, and flame of corruption in him anymore, right? He still is, though, a gear. So that is what it is, right? We then get a little information that Happy Chaos did take away Ino's sense of self / emotion, like equivalence. I think it's just like a weird translation thing, but again, her sense of self, her desires, her emotions, because he felt she was too dangerous. So again, why exactly her desires were too dangerous, her emotions? I don't know, maybe he was trying to make her more robotic-like. Maybe he thought that would help make sure that she never becomes a threat. Yeah, we're not really sure if we can get more information on that, right? And the emotions, or again, desires that were actually taken out of her were meant to be managed in the backyard. So you just kind of like threw them in there. It was like, all right, I'll let the backyard just hold on to these, I guess. But we know that the Universal Will and him had a squabble, like a little fight or confliction. So the Universal Will actually put the desires into, that man, or like the original, right? And somehow that helped her to get past the rule of do not harm humans. We don't know exactly everything with this, right? But it sounds like the reason that she put those desires and emotions inside of him, because maybe they were connected. And, well, no, they weren't connected yet. But yeah, again, would like a little bit more information on that. But now at least we know why, because it is a little weird if he would just like put all that power, I guess, inside of himself. That would have made sense. But it is interesting that, again, he took half the power, he took those emotions, desires, put them in the backyard for it to be managed, and then it was actually the Universal Will who then put those in him. And after that, he went into like a crazy state where he wandered the backyard for, years and years and years. And while this was happening, actually, the Universal Will started to fight like Soul and the others. Probably wasn't there, but since the Universal Will didn't understand human beings or humanity well, she couldn't really actually fight humans that well, like Soul, right? So what she decided to do was the Universal Will remembered, oh, hey, there's this original guy wandering around who, had something like humanity. So, to get and understand humanity, she then pulled, Happy Chaos out of the backyard and then put Happy Chaos into herself. And that's when she became crazy and everything, and that explains why she's why Happy Chaos is in her. So very interesting. And again, it's nice that we kind of get like a timeline of that. I hope we do get more expansion on that information, of course, but again, knowing it, they could have just made this simple, right? Like he took Ino's powers, put it in himself, and then whatever. But this, just again, hearing all this timeline and stuff, that is really interesting. I do hope we get more information on that, and again, explains why. Because it sounds like the Universal Will was still in like a state of like confusion, trying to discover what humans are and stuff, right? But thanks to, well, I shouldn't say, since Happy Chaos was then put inside of her, that's what made her crazy and like everything. And then now that it's, Happy Chaos is ripped out of her again, now she's like kind of understanding things, right? Like now she's more mature and everything. Like she developed, because again, she's seeking real mankind and everything, and she's trying to understand humanity. So with the poison out of her, and then she realizes that Happy Chaos was poison, it probably did help her to, again, regret and understand that her actions were not the best way to fill her objective of, protecting mankind, right? Anyways, though, they also confirmed that, like, the original was that guy that we heard in the Jacko arcade mode from Zerd. So, and that he was piggybacking off the name Happy Chaos, so that's great. Is what it is, right? And the next thing that they actually touch about, which is interesting, is the Halo ring on Chaos, right? They literally say, so I'll quote this, it didn't say it in the work, but there's a reason why he has a similar design to Jacko of an angel ring. A secret reason. So, I'll definitely have to see on that. Again, if he's going off like Jesus, I mean, we know that he had half of Ino's powers in him. Again, they compared it to Jacko. So this was, again, after the story. So it wouldn't make sense if it was simply just like, oh, well, Jacko can take away the power, then Happy Chaos can give the power, and that's why the angel rings. But again, this also implies that there's probably a lot more with Jacko as well that we're probably going to learn about on top of Happy Chaos. So very exciting to see that, she's not entirely out of the story yet, of course. And of course, we get a little bit more into Happy Chaos and kind of his emotions, like his understanding and views of things, right? He loves the emotional part of today's, like, immature, as he sees it, culture. He actually fears that, like, he does mention the story as well, but he fears that we're going to become, like, too mechanical, too efficient, and, like, lose our emotions and desires because we can just have everything that we want. And, like, we're not going to aspire for anything more, right, when we don't have to work for anything. So since Ino's actually like this, right, she literally had the desires ripped out of her. She's extremely powerful, efficient, but since she's like this, it makes sense why when she shows desire to still want a better future, why he's so shocked by it and why he wants to help her so much. Because again, he's been to the future and he's seen that, like, the future, he also states in this article, right, that, he went to the future, with the whole Axel thing, and he saw that it was very boring, and it also explains why he wanted to make history fun, right? But he saw what humanity is becoming, and Ino reminded him of that. But again, Ino had that extra thing of, even though I'm, like, depressed, I'm all this, I still want a better future, and that's what really spoke to him. And it makes sense why, because he doesn't see himself as the villain in this. It makes sense because he wants to help Ino. He's not worried about mankind at this point because he's just trying to make history fun. He's just trying to see if, mankind's potential and desire can truly go on, and see if Ino can find the answer that she's looking for, and if the future actually does hold hope, because she's, again, a good glimpse into that. So, and it just happened that, Soul and everybody were on the side of mankind. So if they were, like, again, I like this because it paints it, because Happy Chaos did do some fucked up shit. Let's be real, he did kill people, right? Literally shot some people, killed some people. Luckily, all the people that he transformed, right, they turned back to normal. But he did do some fucked up shit. But it is nice to see that, again, his motives were good, obviously. Same with, like, Ino, and that they're not really the villains that they're entirely made out to be, of course. And, when we talked about Ino, why she had to become a god and everything with that, they explained that, she wanted to kind of go back to, like, a childlike state where, she had desires and ambitions. They state that, what she was thinking was, when you grow up, you can no longer enjoy what you enjoyed when you were a child. Ino wants to make all humans the same as her because she feels like she, can't move on, like she can't have this desire and ambition that she used to have, and see if any of them, if put in her shoes, can find desire and enjoyment, again, so that's kind of the answers that she was looking for, right? She's basically becoming God and making everybody else like her a god to see if what people do in her shoes. So that makes sense. A little extreme, right? But it does explain a little bit deeper and help us understand again why Ino felt that she had to become God and everything to understand herself. And the next thing that we actually touch on too is more stuff with Axel. So Axel can go back to his original world, but it would cause damage to the world that he's currently in. Like, he kind of touched on it in the story, but again, nice that we get, kind of explaining why he doesn't just go back to his original world if he can. This could also be a nod at Axel and Ino being from, like, the actual original world, right? Maybe, like, the first world of some kind or something like this. I mean, Ino states that this is, like, a fake world to her. This is a fictional world. So, it could just be a parallel world, realistically, probably, or, different universes, paradoxes, all that stuff. But again, since we've opened up that kind of can of worms even more with Happy Chaos, it makes sense that it is that. But it would also be interesting if, similar to, like, the MCU or something, Axel and Ino's world was like the original world, and then we have all these branching worlds. So again, we'll have to see more into that, of course. The next thing is actually with Kai, and is like his eye. So that's super interesting. They don't confirm this, so let me clarify. The interviewer asked, is it possible that, these powers that he's gained are eroding his body? And what they reply with is, I can't speak here, but there's no doubt that the relationship between Dizzy and Kai has had an effect because of this. So yeah, I'll have to see on that. And again, we know, as I'll kind of touch on later in this article too, that like Disney knows everything with, you know, um, the situation's happening with Kai, and it seems like Kai doesn't even fully grasp it. So again, well, I'd like to see how she's handling this relationship, because again, it would give a reason for her to go to the story, because we know that she's very much a pacifist and she's just kind of in hiding so that Kai can announce his family to the world, but see again what she thinks about all this, because she's known forever that he's had the eye, right? She was there, you know, when he took out the eye. So why? Because they make it seem like in this interview that Kai still doesn't know a lot about this. So why is Disney withholding this information from him? Has Disney told him everything? And why is it like now that Disney and Kai's, you know, relationship has been affected? Anyways, though, the next thing that we kind of talk about in this article is Seoul. They're just saying like the rocket ship is to go and see Asuka again, which is great confirmation, because, you know, it means that we're gonna, you know, give a reason that we could go see Asuka and bring him back into the story. And, you know, a lot of people maybe lost some hope that it'll be future in the DLC in the future. So there you go, a good way to throw him back into the mix, right? It was also explained that they were / are, I think it's more past tense from what I understand, considering ending like the Guilty Gear story with Strive. Again, probably not, since, you know, it's very successful now, and they do talk about like the future and everything a bit later, but that would be sad, of course. Yeah, again, we'll have to see on that. And they actually also talked about, which was interesting, how they actually got like the story mode is like 4 hours and 38 minutes or something, but they explained that they got to like 5 hours of the story, but felt like, you know, that ending with Soul and like the happy chaos, you know, an Eno fight was like kind of the best place to end it for now, and, you know, would help make consuming the media and everything better, and probably give them more time to flesh things out and really decide what they want to make the route. So like they said, that it sounds like they probably could have released like a 10-hour story if they wanted to, but it felt like, to be fair, it is probably good that they're releasing in chunks. That probably does help people, because not everybody's going to want to watch a 10-hour movie, right? But if you do like 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, then people are probably more willing to, right? Also, apparently, like Soul, oh yeah, this is funny. Soul wanted to say when he was fighting Eno, so Eno says to Soul, she's like, you know, if you win this, I'll stroke your big tree. And apparently he was thinking, I think I can stroke her chest. Okay, I mean, to be fair, she initiated it, right? So there you go. I guess if you want to know what he was thinking after that, there you go. After this, though, you know, turn into more sad stuff. Daisuke states that if there is another Guilty Gear, that he's not going to be like part of the central role in making the story, and he'd allow the younger generation to develop it. And sounds like he'd still be a part of it in some way. Of course, I mean, he did make it, but it is nice to see that, like, he's like, you know what, I'm content with like kind of ending it here and letting the new generation kind of take up the mantle of this story and see where they take it. So if there is ever like a Guilty Gear 6, right, you know, it'd be exciting to see exactly what sort of changes they make to like the plot, and what new villains and new characters and everything that they introduce. So that'd be cool to see. But yeah, again, he also states in the interview that he might not still. So again, all stuff we'll have to see and speculate on. I mean, this game's gonna still be around for years to come, right? Like, this game ain't dying anytime soon. And then Faust. So finally, from some Faust stuff, Faust like confirms that he did forgive Cronus, so that's nice. And now he actually seeks atonement from Cronus. So, right, he's currently decided to live as like a dark doctor, so like probably like an underground doctor, makes sense, rather than judge himself for the mistakes of the past. Okay. Well, anyways, however, subconsciously he has had feelings that he should be judged somewhat. You could say he's like living to find a place to die. So it sounds like he's just trying to move on, but he still hasn't moved on, right? Like he's moving on, but he still has that, again, subconsciously, internally, those demons, and like him wanting, like feeling like, although yes, I am doing good, yes, people don't blame me for the past, you know, I still can't move on. Like, I'm trying to, but I can't. So that's definitely a really interesting, again, internal struggle that I hope we get to see and learn more about, for sure. As some people have pointed out, which I appreciate, because I only saw this on my second time reading, in the story mode 2 like article, which we'll talk about towards the end of this, They don't mention Faust. They mention like, oh yeah, we're gonna follow Ram, May, and Bike, and it's like, bro, where Faust at? So it would really suck if we don't get much into Faust, but I feel like we'll get some stuff. I don't know why they didn't name him. We'll have to see. But that is a little concerning, right? But anyways, the next thing that we say is, well, because they even talk about like in an episode, as they put it, but in an episode that isn't currently depicted in the main story, there will be a point where Faust unconsciously gets in the way of saving a person, in like a very tense moment. Faust will desperately try to like remember his original intentions as a doctor. As a result of this, Faust will, his complex past will overlap and like really screw with him. And this is also like, this was like the big part of this article that a lot of people took, because it does make it sound like at some point he is going to go back to like his psychotic evil roots, of course. So I'll definitely like to see on that. And again, it's like unconsciously, it's because he can't get over like this demon inside of him that's still lurking of like everything that he did in the past, and the fact that nobody's like judging him for it. So again, we'll definitely have to see on that, but I really hope that episode that they're referring to happens sooner than later, for sure. And again, it will be when someone's like, he's about to save someone, so that could be really fucked up, like someone is like literally dying and then he becomes evil. And then that would like fuck with him even more if he does let that person die, because then he's gonna like be even more screwed up that he let someone die because of his mistakes again, right? The next thing that we talk about is a bit more the Axel. They say that Axel could pull the moon like Ino did in the story if he wanted to, but he currently just like doesn't have the experience or understanding to do so. So he could be as powerful as Ino, right? But again, just does not have that like knowledge to do it. So is what it is. They then also confirm, right, that Happy Gas survived and that something needs him. So that's cool. Interesting, they also talk about Kai's lightning color, because it used to be blue and now it's yellow. They do confess it was mainly to help the game visually, like it looks nicer, but they also like relate it and saying like it's also because there are big changes going on inside of his body. So again, we'll have to see more on that, but it's always kind of convenient, right, when you make a change and it all kind of works out. So good on them. And like I was kind of hinting at earlier, they mentioned that Dizzy knows everything that's going on with Kai in his body, and even like how it happened, which of course we know because she was there when he took out Senzai, of course. Frederick also understands everything but doesn't mention it to Kai. I hope we get explained why he doesn't mention it. Does he just feel like it's not his place? Does he think Kai already knows? Like, again, we'll have to see why Frederick hasn't told him anything, because again, they're making it sound like Kai doesn't know exactly what's happening with him, and there's some bigger piece of this, right? Sin also understands it a bit, but he doesn't really care too much. It's not really something that concerns him. But again, it is interesting how Kai just like doesn't know much. He probably knows quite a bit, but it just sounds like there's another kind of piece of this puzzle that we've yet to learn about. Next thing they talk about too is like Jacko's hair. It turned red because like reverting to Arya, but actually it's still partly white because like it isn't fully Arya yet. So I guess if it ever did become fully Arya, it would be completely red, which is just kind of a neat little detail that they explain. So that's cool. One thing I do want to note, this next one is very interesting, and I hope we do see this in the story, and it's involving Milia's forbidden beast. They say it's no longer like a threat to run away from her, which is interesting. But they do say, however, the power is still eroding at her. And there are some complex settings regarding this, and I hope that they'll get to talk about this at some point. So hopefully, again, in the future, Sai will get more answers on, Milia's forbidden beast. I don't even, we don't even know exactly what it's eroding at. When they say complex settings regarding this does sound like it could be fertility, like some people have thought and predicted, right? So we'll have to see on that, but I'm glad that they're still talking about it. I'm glad. And again, I hope we do. Maybe I'm scared that we're probably not going to touch it on this story, but I do hope we get to touch on that in the future. Exactly, again, everything that's happening with Milia and her forbidden beast. And then they talk about Testament, which this is a while ago, so and they were actually asking about it because like, oh yeah, we saw Testament in the end credits, so what's up with Testament, right? And they say like Testament is living with the old couple who who were like helping and hiding Dizzy at the time. And they didn't just, like, Testament didn't just go to them. It was actually that they first avoided contact with, like, the couple or anybody. But after the Dizzy subjugation team found the couple they were thinking of ways to like harm the couple, and Testament actually helped them out, and they accepted, Testament, and then they all kind of like accepted each other as they put in like a natural way. So it was just over time like bonding, so that's nice to see. And Testament, they're no longer hostile towards humans, and they also work as a calm young man. Again, quote from the article, right? But calmer, works in construction, nice, and they often go to play with Johnny. So neato. Play with Johnny's definitely an interesting way of putting it. I hope we do get more into that. It does sound like Testament does act very childish sometimes, which is fun, right? Then we get some interesting stuff about Nago. Nago was sealed by Chaos, and apparently, as they put it, like it's more like Chaos saved him. Saved him from what exactly? We don't know, right? And Chaos also kept Nago around for another much more important reason, besides just like the stuff we already know, because they do mention like, oh yeah, he kept him around for, he likes that he knows his weakness, he likes his, that he's strong, he likes that he has control over him, he likes that, he like follows, his own moral compass, or what he preaches, right? But it sounds like there's, again, another deeper reason why he's keeping Nago around, so that's also interesting to note. They even say that, it's a hidden characteristic of a demi-human, like a vampire, that, we can't tell you about yet. To be fair, we might have gotten hints of this in the Happy Chaos arcade mode, where, like, Chaos says it's like a turmoil to, like, connect all the parallel and different dimensions, so maybe that's why Chaos kept him around, but, I like at least confirmation on that in the story, or, again, maybe we will get to see the deeper reason of why he kept Nago Ryuki around. And they also confirm that the arcade modes happen after the story, but they do specify, depending on the character, it may also be happening in a parallel world. So specifically, right, probably maybe Chaos and Ino's. That's really interesting. They then talk about Zappa. So, Zappa. We did actually see Zappa in the credits, right? So, Zappa could be coming, baby. But they mentioned that Zappa now has full control over all his spirits, including like the S-Child, like the one he was struggling with the most. And there's no longer like fighting within him. However, he will rely on them if there need be. Since, they, in this article before Testament came out, of course it's just like an interview, but they're just pulling like questions from different things. It is interesting that they mentioned Zappa, and the fact that Zappa has control over his powers now, and that he's, willing to use them if need be. So I think a lot of people would really like to see him in Strive, see how they change visually, gameplay-wise. He's just, again, a very visually cool character, so really like to see him, and that's a nice little nod at him, of course. Next thing they talk about is Fredly, and, Jacko life is like, they mainly just chill, he just does what he does, and he does most of the housework, but apparently Jacko learns because she's interested in that, so Frederick, the house dad, fun, nice. But finally, the last one is actually about Bridget. They asked, where and what is Bridget doing? And we actually do get a lot about Bridget. They've been thinking about Bridget, right? So good, he might come back too, but they say he's still a bounty hunter. However, the purpose of why he's a bounty hunter has changed. Before it was to prove like he was a man to his family, but now it's simply just to pay for his living expenses. And he's actually now a well-known bounty hunter who's made significant contributions to his parents and the village he was born and raised in. Bridget is, also about to understand who they really are. So that's a weird thing to add, right? So again, I think this could be a good nod that we might actually get to see him in the future. And I know, again, Japan's a big fan of Bridget. They love to see him back, and a lot of people just like to see Bridget back. They definitely have to change him quite a bit because his playstyle's a little interesting, right? But again, just a popular character, and I think nobody would be disappointed. Same with, of course, Zappa if they got added back. But anyways, the actual article we got yesterday, it's I'll link both the articles down below. Don't worry about it. If you want to check those out yourself, but it gave us, for one, a confirmation that we are getting this story mode 2 on April 29th. That's why I removed the day, right? I knew this was gonna happen. I knew they were gonna mess with my numbers, but it is what it is, right? And, the first thing they kind of state is, another story. I think they might just call it like another story, like a story mode 1 and then another story. So, okay, cool. But it's going to provide players with a full look behind the curtains from another perspective, featuring the appearance from many characters who did not appear during the main story, including Ramlethal, May, and Baiken. Why didn't they mention Faust, even though they showed him in the trailers, and we know that Faust isn't he's in this, oh my god, he's not in story 1, he's in this. They know that everybody's dying to see Faust. Like, please, why are they doing this to us? God. So again, we'll have to see if that's just something like they just were listing people off and then didn't lift off Faust, or if seriously, like, we're not going to get the information we want on Faust, which would suck. They also talk about a bit about like the timeline. They say while the incident in America triggered by Asuka Arcud's surrender unfolds, meaning that this is probably, and also this would make sense given that we're meeting Delilah for the first time. This probably happened within that 3-week time period from Zerd to Strive, a little bit before Strive, because we know that Asuka within those 3 weeks at some point surrendered, because he had already surrendered by the time Strive happened, and we already knew that like Anji and Chip knew who Delilah were before Strive Story Mode 1, so this is probably going to happen. I know, because people are like, oh, well, they said it's going to happen parallel at the same time, and it will, it will for sure. I'm not saying that it's not going to, but it is going to probably take place, and it would make sense if it does take place a little bit before, during, and maybe even a little bit after Story Mode 1, right? So, you don't have to see on that. They also say Special Brigade Commander Ramlethal Valentines heads to the outskirts of Illyria after receiving reports of an emergency. As I touched on yesterday, yeah, that's what I predicted. I think that's what a lot of people who read her GG glossary knew about her predicted, right? Like, she was probably the one informed about this threat, so that's why she's out there. Makes sense, because we did see the Phalanx 9, who probably are under her command, right? So we'll also get to hopefully learn more about them. And then there is, Ramlethal finds a girl who closely resembles Bedman, who once worked for the Universal Will against mankind, so again, that's the threat, that's why she's sent out there. And we see 2 shots of Ramlethal on the train, then we see Baiken fighting the bed, which has a different crown. Again, I touched on Delilah quite a bit, but again, it has a different crown from Bedman, so it's a whole new bed. We see Baiken fighting it. Delilah's not on it, so is she controlling it telepathically? Is it going crazy? Maybe Bedman like gave it commands before he died to like protect Delilah, right? So have to see on that, see what's up with the bed, of course. Is it gonna like stay there? Are we gonna destroy it in the story mode, like right then and there? Who knows? And then, of course, the super interesting thing that people are interested in is, of course, Delilah. So I'll just read this off again, right? A young girl who has awoken from a long slumber. She lived within a dream since her birth due to a unique condition caused by her brain's inability to withstand the exceptional intellect, and abilities. As she only just woken up, she doesn't have a solid grasp on common sense and social skills. Her one and only motive is to get revenge for her brother's life. So, again, she just woke up, like we said. She doesn't know anybody. It might be explaining why she's going crazy. We know that she's going to be very angry at Happy Chaos. All we hear about is that she's, like, angry, insane, right? So, hopefully we get to see a lot about that. Of course, it also says, and it makes sense that she doesn't have a solid grasp of common sense and social skills, so she's definitely going to be a fun character to learn about and watch. But, like I was saying all yesterday, right, I'm super hyped to see her, and like I said, these 2 articles, I think, are giving us a good glimpse into stuff we might see in this new story mode, and, hopefully in the future of Strive as well. Like I said, we're now only a week out, 7 days away, keeping it hype. These next 6 days are going to be extremely fun, so be sure to check them out. It's only going to get more fun as we get closer, right? So, appreciate y'all always keeping up with these. It's been the Real Slim Cheesy, and hey, love you all a lot, and take care.